3D Poinsettia Hair Clip Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi everyone, so in today's video I am going to be doing these adorable little poinsettia hair clips, which I actually just found these clips and they're hollow, there's nothing in the middle. So I thought I could fill that with acrylic, and I decided to do poinsettias because my grandparents, every year on their anniversary, which was December 29th, my grandfather would get my grandmother a poinsettia plant. And I don't know, she still loves poinsettias, so it's just something fun that I thought I'd do. Plus, I want to try out my new silicone tools, and I knew that would be something that I could do that with. Really quickly, before I move on to the video though, I just want to open this. I just got this in the mail today from a subscriber of mine, Aunt Jay. And first thing, I want to mention this bow. Bow making is an art in itself. If you make bows, then you know. It's stunning in so many ways. There's two kinds of ribbon on here. That is something absolutely random off the wall I wanted to mention, but it's gorgeous. And the other thing is, I was so surprised when I got this in the mail. It was not something I was expecting in the slightest, and it really brought a smile to my face, so I want to say that too. So I'm going to open this quick on camera, if I can. I am a really cautious gift opener. It's in my nature. I have issues tearing paper. Oh, I drop it. Oh, that is so pretty. Okay, so I'll put a closer up picture. So it's a nail file that has all of these pretty little, all of this decorating on it. Thank you, really, I love it. I can't honestly get over the bow. And the fact that it survived in the mail is astonishing. And this is gorgeous, and once again, thank you so much. I love it, and yes, thank you. And so now, on to the video. So for the hair clip, I just grabbed it, and then I'm going to be outlining the inside of it onto just a post-it note and just go through with a pen and draw out the shape. That way I know when I'm making that little platform that the flowers are going to go on, I know what shape to make it and approximately what size. Like I said, it's approximate because the hair clip has a little curve to it, it's really hard. So now I'm laying a nail form backing over the top of that, and I'm going to be sculpting over that shape I drew with just clear acrylic. And so once again, with that nail file, I just want to mention one more thing. I noticed this right away, but I didn't say it, I don't know why. The nail file, the design on it, matches the ribbon. I love those little details. It brings me so much joy. So one more time, I'm going to say thank you. So then I'm just sculpting over that nail form, making sure my clear acrylic is fully covered. And when you're working on a nail form, you can sort of plan on the acrylic being relatively thin. So then once that is about 75% set, so as you can see, it's still pretty flexible, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm using a silicone tool to do that. And then I'm just going to get rid of, there's a couple little hangers on around the sides. Just going to peel those off, and then set that in there inside the hair clip, that's the word I'm looking for, and it did just kind of fall right through because it was a little small yet. So I'm going to hold a nail form backing against it and then fill in all of those little gaps with some more clear acrylic, making sure that it really is going to hold on and stay there. And so lots of clear acrylic in the beginning here, and making sure that this is sound and secure and not going to fall apart is very important. So I just went around the entire perimeter of that clear insert just to make sure that it is going to stay in place. So now that I have that done, I'm going to once again be working on a nail form backing, and I'm going to sculpt all of the leaves, I guess, if you want to be correct about it, all of the leaves with a really dark burgundy. And so I'm just going to make 2 of them at a time. I don't want to make too many, but because you have to work with them in a certain stage of drying, and so you want to make sure that you leave yourself apt amount of time to do that. So then once they have started to set and they begin to turn matte, sort of press your brush down at the center of it and then pat it out so that it's thinner in the center and a little thicker around the outside. And I'm going to do that on both of them, just like that. And then I'm going to take a silicone tool, because I'm really loving those. They're my new they're my new best friend. I love how I'm friends with inanimate objects, brushes. Love brushes. They're fantastic. And I'm going to do that with both. I'm just going to pick them up and then set them down onto the hair clip. And I am going to apologize in advance for a couple times I was placing them on the clip off camera just because I was setting them down. It's hard to say how fast you have to pick these up because your monomer might be different, might be a different ratio, monomer to powder. You might pick them up at a different stage than I do, but there's a very short window of time, regardless of what company you're using, what products you're using, what temperature it is in your house, all of these different things that play into it, but there's still a small window of time, I'd say about 15 seconds, that you can pick it up and place it on the clip, which once you start doing these and you pick them up, and if one happens to get too dry, you just toss it, make a new one. When I'm doing this and I have to set them down quickly, as this one's getting a little bit too dry, having it on camera is definitely always in the back of my mind, but it's not in the foreground. It's not the most important at that moment. And so I don't know if you noticed that. So I did 3 petals kind of going out in a fan, or leaves, petals or leaves. And so they're going in one direction, and then I'm going to stick 3 flowers total on the clip. And the second one is going to face the other direction, so they kind of set in with each other. So I'm going to be making the next 2 petals or leaves. I'm going to do that the entire time because I want to say I am a very literal person. So I really like to, for instance, when I'm talking about a tomato, it's a fruit. I know it's a fruit, and I can tell, I go by the scientific definition of fruits and vegetables, not the culinary definition, which causes my family a couple issues because I like to be correct in the description of them. I'm a little OCD in a couple of different ways, like tearing wrapping paper, and that is one of those things that I like to make sure is stated correctly. So calling these petals when they're leaves is bothering me a little bit. So then I'm just gonna go and keep making them. So this is working on the last of the flowers. I don't know, they're not really flowers, they're just the colorful leaves on top of the plant. And then adding the last one there. So they all have 3 to start with, and they're going to get 3 around the outside and then 2 on the inside. And the 2 that go on the inside are going to be a little smaller. And for the last one, just because I'm making 9, so I can't do them in sets of 2 all the way to the end, I'm just going to do the last one as on its own. And then pick that up and place it on there. And I'm not too worried if they go off of the clip a little bit, if they are a little bit bigger. I think that actually looks nice if they go into that red frame. So now I'm working on the smaller ones. So it's the exact same process. It's just they're slightly smaller. So a good thing to do to know how to keep your petals, leaves about the same size each time is if you know how much monomer is on your brush. So if you dip and then wipe off the back, or if you dip and then tap it, or have a pattern that you go with and just stick to it, stick with the same thing, dip your brush in the same way onto, or dip it in the same depth, do everything the same so that they're close to the same size. It's never going to be exact, it's impossible, but getting it close just by having a pattern of events is going to really help you. So just pay attention to what you're doing and watch what you're doing so that you know how to do it next time. So then I'm going to add those next 2 in the center, and they should go between the two leaves before it. So if there's 2, stick the next one, the smaller one, between them so that they are a little bit variegated. And then I'm going to be making the next set. And then as you can see, those 2 are not the same size. It's not like it's a huge deal. You don't have to be completely strict about it, but a little bit closer, and plus that's going to help you make sure that they're different sizes too. Like that one that I made was a little bit on the larger side. It doesn't fit into the space quite as well. It's fine. And a plant, everything in a plant is going to be, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly the same. And so having your leaves and your petals or whatever it is you're making, if it's a natural thing, having it be perfect is actually going to not add to it's going to detract from the realism. If it's all a little different, something's a little bit crooked, or that's actually going to add to the realism. So making flowers like this, if this is the first thing you've ever done with this technique, is something good because perfection isn't always what you need. So then I'm going to be filling in behind some of those leaves that are sticking up a little more with some clear acrylic, just to add some strength, because otherwise they're extremely thin and delicate and they could easily snap. But if you add in just acrylic underneath them as a little, little blocker. It's going to really help with keeping them on there and attached and really secure them in place so that they don't break. And after you do that and they're all filled in, you don't really have to worry about them breaking either. So now with some red paint that's a little bit diluted, I'm going to be highlighting the tip of each leaf with just a little bit of that paint. Nothing too crazy, nothing too specific, just a little bit on the end of each one. That's really going to help show off each petal so that you can see that there are so many of them on there, because there's 9 and 6, so we have 15 petals. So just like that, a little bit of red. And otherwise, if you wanted to highlight them or if you wanted to distinguish them in a different way, you could have grabbed a two-tone bead. So you could have dipped, when you were getting the powder, you could have gone into a burgundy acrylic and then into a red, or into a red and then to a burgundy. That's the way you should do it. And get a two-tone bead, and then you could skip the highlighting part. So now I'm going to be adding a little line down the center of each leaf for a vein with black paint. I'm not really going for exact realism here. I'm making stylized poinsettias, and so the black line I think also is really going to help show off each petal on its own and make them distinguished and easy to see. And just like with the red paint, this black paint is diluted, and that isn't necessarily to make it a little less opaque. That's more just to make it thinner and easier to work with. So now I'm using some glittery gold gel, and I'm going to be filling in behind the poinsettias. You could have done this in the beginning beforehand, before you started adding the petals or the leaves. The reason I didn't is because I forgot. That's the honest reason why I didn't think about it, but then later I said, hey, I should put gold behind there. But if you wanted to, you could do it before, you could do it now. It's not that hard. Doesn't really matter. But then I'm going to be adding some gel sealer behind them as well, so just in that background, and then curing that again. And now I'm putting matte top coat over my flowers. And so the matte top coat, when you do that, make sure it's a really nice thin layer so that it doesn't fill in the gaps between the leaves and make it so that they're not quite as distinguished. And then I'm going to be painting gel sealer on the underside. This is for no reason than I thought it would look better, and I think it does. It makes it shinier and clearer, but it doesn't show at all when it's in your hair. It doesn't really matter in the slightest. So then with clear acrylic, I'm going to be attaching 3 sort of gold tone rhinestones to the center of each of them. So I'm just going to place that little relatively wet bead down and then pick up the rhinestones and set them in there. And you have a couple seconds to mold them and get them into the right shape. And the rhinestones that I'm using for this have a pointy base, which is going to make them sort of nest together really well, which is nice. It's not necessary, it's just helpful a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little more clear acrylic around them just to make sure that they're really secured in place and they're not going to pop off either. And that is it. So I hope you like this. It is available in my online store, so if you're interested, check that out. And share any recreations with me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd really love to see them, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!